Hey, let's go over some Spurs news and notes and then enter the multiverse and ask, what if Blake Griffin was a Spur?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kansas 5 San Antonio. As always, I thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts. Pick a platform. We are there. Kansas 5 Plus app, YouTube, Spotify. The list goes on and on. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Look, I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. Join your friends. Download Monopoly Go right now for free on the App Store or Google Play. So what are we talking about today? I'll catch you up with some brief Spurs news and notes, and then ask, what if Blake Griffin was a Spur? In case you missed it, in an interview he recently did with Lance Armstrong, of all people, he admitted that in his entire career, he wanted to become a Spur, play for Popovich. So we're going to enter the multiverse, enter that universe, and ask, what if he did become a Spur? And then talk about you guys, Locked On Spurs fans, in the comments you were leaving over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. But first, some Spurs news and notes. And right off the bat, Keldon Johnson, in case you didn't know, he is a brand ambassador for a Japanese sneaker company called, forgive me, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Kwaidan, okay? Well, he has a lot of sneakers. I mean, now they produce a lot of sneakers. Yes, signature shoe line, the works. They have some that are inspired by Fiesta colors, some that are called the Riverwalk. He has a line of shoes, and by the way, they're really, really good. I'm actually tempted to do a sneaker breakdown. I have a pair of his sneakers. But the point is, well, that sneaker company is now branching off with Keldon into a different area. Clothing, yes. Kwaidan, I believe that's how you pronounce it, excuse me. They have recently announced that they've launched a new Keldon Johnson clothing line now. As of now, it's purple. So it's like a purple button up. It has purple shorts. It looks like he has a white t-shirt with his letters KJ on it. So it looks like it was a teaser, but again, it looks very breathable. The idea is a sports concept, so be able to wear, wear it out and look sporty, I guess. So if you want to check out the look of it and check it out, go to kens5.com/Spurs right now. So yeah, it looks like Keldon's not only going into the sneaker game, obviously, but he's going into the clothing line. Now, he's not the only one. Remember, Dan Vassell during last season announced, well, he and the Spurs announced that he has a clothing line now called We Hoopin'. And if you've been to a Spurs game and go to the fan shop, they're there. So again, looks like your Spurs are getting into the clothing line. In other Spurs news, salute to Devin Vassell. So the NBA announced the Most Improved Player Award. That went to Naz Reid of Minnesota. But the breakdown, Vassell got one vote. So whoever voted for Vassell, kudos to you. So the Spurs weren't completely left off the ballot for Most Improved Player. Devin Vassell got a vote. Hey, look, for the season that the Spurs went through, we'll take it, huh? In other Spurs news, BetOnline recently put out their futures about Chris Paul's next destination if he does not stay with the Warriors. And guess who's at the top of the list? Number one destination for Chris Paul? Your Spurs. Yeah, the Spurs are leading the odds makers as far as the next home for Chris Paul with a plus 200. That's a hefty, pretty close to the mark that Vegas believes that's going to happen. We'll talk about that more, I should say, in detail in a future Locked On Spurs episode. But yeah, it looks like Vegas oddsmakers are thinking that Chris Paul next uniform could be silver and black. That'll be interesting. We're definitely got to talk about that on an upcoming Locked On Spurs. All right, there's your quick Spurs news and notes. When we get back, we're going to bring in our guest, Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Now, just a heads up. Unfortunately, he was at work, could not do a video. So from this point forward, it's going to be an audio only show. But we enter the multiverse. We ask, what if Blake Griffin was a Spur? In case you missed it, again, he admitted that he wanted to be a San Antonio Spur at some point in his career. I love what he said at the end, too, of the interview. He said it just did not work out in San Antonio. So it looks like he wanted to be a Spur. We're going to discuss that and what could have been next right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle to level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, they got that. Roof racks, yep. Exhaust kits, got that too. LED headlights, sure. So much more. If you're into power, speed, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit the first time, every time. Your ride, you have all that good stuff or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. That's ebaymotors.com. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. I also want to talk about Mudslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're located in the 281 and 1604 area. They got it all. Need a latte? Yep. You need a cold brew? Got that. Need just a coffee, like their signature drink, the Mudslinger? Got that too. Mini donuts? They got you covered. They have so much there. Their menu is extensive. They got a friendly staff. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs, proud community member of San Antonio, serving San Antonio the best drinks in the city. Go there right now, San Antonio. What are you waiting for? By the way, they got something called the Lightning Bolts drink. So basically, that's exactly what it sounds like, a supercharged drink for you to get you through your day. But just a heads up, they started using Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. Now, Lotus has the same caffeine to Red Bull, but with 7 power plant extracts. That gives them more flexibility to create new drinks. They still have Red Bull available if you want that, but the default will be Lotus. It's part of their Lightning Bolt line, which includes the Alien, Wembayama. Yeah. Go get yourself a drink right now. It's made with Lotus Energy, natural caffeine, combining the powerful blend of 7 plant extracts. New and improved Lightning Bolts will keep you powered up all day. So yeah, I mean, they're always thinking of new drinks to have, like the OJ. I recommend that one. You want to go there right now. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, 281 1604 area. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Follow them on social media at Mudslinger, SATX, all one word. Go there right now, San Antonio, because life is too short for bland coffee.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're now joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. He is subbing in for today. You're tagging in for Casey Vieira. Man, Rudy, you got to pick up his slack, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, the best 6-man in Locked On history is upon us again.
That is true, yeah. Unfortunately, everybody, Casey Vieira was set to join us today, but he had some issues, time scheduling, so we had to postpone it. Rudy Campos is our 6-man. He comes in whenever we have these situations. So because of that, we have to respect his time and the fact he can't do video, but he definitely got him on audio chat. And we're going to enter the multiverse. But before we do that, make sure to check out his show, Sweep the League, on YouTube, part of the Alamo City Sports Podcast Network. He'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But, Rudy, let me set it up before we hit the button to enter the multiverse. In an interview with, I guess everybody has a podcast now, with Lance Armstrong, during their conversation, Blake Griffin was asked about all the teams that he played for, from the Clippers to the Pistons to the Celtics to the Nets. And he was asked, was there a team in your career, before he retired, because everybody knows by now Griffin retired from the NBA, that he wanted to play for? Now, initially, Rudy, I was thinking he was going to say, the Lakers or the Knicks, because it's New York City, Miami even. No. Of all the teams he said he wanted to play for was the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. Now, he was asked, okay, are you just playing lip service, because everybody says that's the team you want to play for, with Popovich and the Spurs. And Griffin acknowledged it, Rudy, by saying, yes, I hear all that. But he goes, I really wanted to play for Pop. Why? Because he liked how Tim Duncan bought into the system. He liked how Popovich would berate Tim Duncan in film sessions, and then Duncan translate that into just winning titles. I mean, Blake Griffin even said, he goes, all Timmy did was just take that punishment from Pop and turn it into winning championships. He saluted David Robinson for setting the established culture, and just really wanted to be a part of it. Now, another reason why Rudy Griffin wanted to be a Spur was because he likes Popovich's style of coaching. He said it takes a certain type of individual to handle what Popovich can dish out. And he said he wanted that in his career because it reminded him of his father, how much his father a high school basketball coach, took a similar approach as Popovich does with the Spurs, a no-nonsense approach. So with that set up, let's hit the button. Let's tell Hank Pym to give us those Pym particles. We're about to enter the multiverse, and here we go, and we're in it. So here we are. It is the early 2000s, Rudy. Blake Griffin's making it known. He wants to be a Spur, and he wants to get there. So, Rudy Campos, now they're in the multiverse. Do you think in this what-if scenario, it could have worked? You think the Spurs could have found a way to bring in Blake Griffin? Now, mind you, this is at the height of the Spurs dynasty. What are your overall thoughts, first of all, with Blake Griffin, what had to say, and do you think it would have worked?
So I think Blake would have came in at the right time, and I'm going to use the 17-18, 18-19 season, which is the 17-18 season is when he was traded to the Detroit Pistons, but he still had a really good year in 18-19. He was averaging 24.5 points and 7.5 rebounds for the Pistons. That Blake Griffin scenario would have played out, I think, beautifully for the Spurs, because at the time you had LaMarcus Aldridge, you had DeMar DeRozan as your 1-2 punch, you had younger DeJounte Murray, Derek White was still there, you had big man help with Jakob Poeltl. So I really feel that could have worked out tremendously for the Spurs at the time. You're looking at a starting five of probably like DeJounte, DeMar, Blake, LMA, Jakob. I mean, that's a massive lineup. You could actually have brought Jakob probably off the bench for that team right there, and they wouldn't have skipped a beat, because remember, Rudy Gay was a part of that squad too. So there you go. You have two potential starters in Gay and Jakob coming off the bench, along with possibly Derek White. So that's a really good one. And, hearing Blake talk about wanting to play for Pop, you don't hear that very often in a player actually meaning it. Blake actually meaning it. But let's not forget, Blake was a part of Team USA as well. Pop's always been involved with Team USA. So that's probably where that trend came in for Blake wanting to be a San Antonio Spur at one point.
Yeah. Now look at this. Now, if he wanted to come to the Spurs early, and this is where my what-if scenario plays in, is I think it would have been difficult. So let's just say he wanted to get to San Antonio during their heyday. And he was around. He saw Timmy win titles and everything. And I think, obviously, what NBA player didn't want to win a title and doesn't want to win a title. But if he had wanted to come to the Spurs earlier, it would have been really tough, because they play the same position, the power forward spot. Now, do the Spurs finagle it where they recreate the Twin Towers, but in a forward form? What about that? If, let's just say, he wanted to come to San Antonio during the Tim Duncan time, you think a Twin Tower forward approach would have worked?
No, not with Blake Griffin and Tim Duncan.
No? Okay.
It takes a special center or power forward to be alongside Tim Duncan. I mean, David Robinson made it work because of the athleticism. Not saying Blake wasn't athletic at the time, but Blake's defensive prowess wasn't exactly.
Wasn't that one of the? I don't mean to cut you off here, but wasn't that one of the biggest knocks of Duncan's era, was that he never had a quality forward next to him? Remember, there was Luis Scola and Timmy would have worked out. It always felt like he needed that running mate in the paint after Robinson left. Sure, there was Malik Rose and whatnot, but Fabrizio Alberto. But that kind of was the knock. Remember, the Spurs were looking for a forward to pair with Tim Duncan.
Yeah, and the guys that we're looking at, Alberto and a lot of these other guys, the one thing that they have that Blake was lacking. And again, it's not a shot at Blake Griffin. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not a quick shot at him or anything, but it's the big man basketball IQ. And that's where I see where it made sense for Alberto, a guy that could play with his back to the basket, make the right pass. Blake was a scorer, man. I mean, he wanted to get the highlight reels. He wanted to score the basketball. He was the focal point for the Clippers for so many years, in the years of CP3 and also with DeAndre Jordan. I mean, it would have worked out, I think, in the Duncan era. It would have been tough, not only from the financial standpoint, but also I think the players around Duncan at the time fit his mold as a player for the San Antonio Spurs. And I don't know. I personally don't think Griffin in the Duncan era would have worked for the Spurs. I think it took, like I said, a special center, a special big man next to Duncan to make that team work. I think a lot of opportunities for Tony Parker, Manu and all these other guys, they would have been squandered away. They wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have had the point totals and stuff like that because with Blake Griffin there. Honestly, I just think overall, I don't think it would have meshed, to be honest with you.
And then there's this too. Now, even post Tim Duncan, or even at the trail end of his career where he was just a shell of his former self, there was a guy on that bench, Kawhi Leonard. There was the forward right there. I think the emergence of Kawhi in San Antonio also would have halted the Spurs looking to bring in Blake Griffin, because they would have to given him minutes. Kawhi was a budding star. We know that he's the big reason why the Spurs won 2014 title. How much do you think the impact of Kawhi Leonard on the bench would, in this multiverse scenario, and we're in, universe 616, Popovich, RC Buford, and they're looking at that and I'm like, yeah, maybe it's a bad idea to bring in Griffin because we've got this kid named Kawhi Leonard.
So I think if it's Kawhi Leonard along, because at the time it would have been Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, and if you add Blake Griffin to that group, it makes a lot more sense. Now this is post Tim Duncan
bring him in?
being retired. What's that?
To bring him in makes more sense to bring Griffin in, even though Kawhi's on the bench.
Okay, off the bench, are you saying, for Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, because remember Kawhi he wasn't a starter, was he, or was he a starter from day one?
He wasn't. I don't think he was a starter from day one, but he actually became a starter towards the end of the year. But I said what I'm saying is yes. In a Kawhi-led Spurs team, it makes sense. Even though he's coming off the bench, I think like with Kawhi and then obviously with LMA coming in, that would have worked out perfectly. That little trio would have worked out perfectly, in my opinion, because it's just something about the Duncan teams that you had to have the right pieces around him. I didn't see Blake fitting in that squad right there. But with a Kawhi-led team and a LaMarcus Aldridge right next to him, to me, that makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more run and gun with that team right there.
Yeah, and look, I think also too, another was why it would have worked post Duncan era and into that bridge era that we're seeing into the Wemby era now, because he started developing a mid-range shot, and people forget about that. Yes, he was a high flyer with the Clippers, Lob City, dunks. That's all he was known for, winning slam dunk contests, etc. But he was a multiple-time All-Star, and he was developing at least a mid-range. He wasn't a deadly three-point shooter, but he was starting to get a mid-range shot. Another reason why I think it would have worked. But do you think the LMA Griffin pairing would have collided a bit?
No, not at all. I don't think so. LMA's a low block guy, and like you said, the good thing about both of them is one can play down low while the other's on the outside, vice versa. They both had really good mid-range games. LaMarcus was, really, really good. I think they would have been able to play off each other a lot better than people give them credit for. So LMA and Blake Griffin together, that makes a lot of sense. Your focal point was Kawhi Leonard at the time. So you're freeing up Blake and LMA because when you've got two post guys guarding the paint, you got two guys that can shoot the mid-range. Who are you going to guard off of a pick and roll? Those guys would have been tremendous in the pick and roll with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, it would have been good. DeJounte Murray, young DeJounte Murray would have really benefited as well from that, wealth of knowledge that Griffin had. I don't think it's a team. Is it a team, though, that challenges in the West? I mean, are you putting the fear in the Warriors team?
I
think you kind of
wholeheartedly probably not. I think
it is. I think they do. They got size. That was one of the biggest knocks.
It's hard to say because where's the defense outside of Kawhi and a DeJounte team? Blake wasn't necessarily a great defender, so it's almost like. You know what? I would say they would be equal. If anything, they would be equal. I couldn't put the Spurs above those Golden State teams at the time, but I would definitely say it's an equal pairing.
I think they just abused the Warriors because the Warriors were the cream of the crop at that time. I think you abuse them. Look what the Spurs did to them, just Kawhi alone. And LMA, was having a good series till the whole infamous Pachulia thing happened. LMA cooked the Warriors too. You throw in Griffin, that's the whole dynamic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably upset some fans here, and the Spurs would have easily handled the Warriors in that game. But in a 7-game series, it's hard to tell what happens after that because teams make adjustments. And for anyone to say that the Spurs are going to absolutely roll over or like roll the Warriors in that series, it's hard to say. It's so hard to say. It was just one game, but again, it could have been different. The Spurs could have pulled it out with Kawhi Leonard, but again, it was game one, so it's hard to really say how they would have fared against the Warriors at the time.
I mean, you look at Blake Griffin. He was traded from from the Clippers to the Pistons, and it was a shocking move. I thought he was going to retire a Piston. I'm sorry, a Clipper. Excuse me. He played for so many teams. But I mean, he definitely. I mean, look, he 14 years in the NBA. Multiple All-Star. He career averages of 19 points per game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. From the field, I think in his career, he got better. He got a lot better as it progressed. And that was one of the biggest knocks on him. Can he do something else other than dunk? For his career, Rudy, 49.3% from the field. It's not too bad considering.
Yeah, no, 49% from the field, definitely not. I mean, damn near shooting 50% is great for any player. Kobe Bryant shot under 50% for his career. So Blake improved from just Lob City to becoming a better all-around player. It shows, he was a 3-time All-NBA second teamer, 2-time All-NBA third teamer, so 6-time All-Star. So definitely, taking out the All-Stars, he had some All-NBA teams in there under his resume, showing that he is a very versatile player. He became very versatile. And that's what I'm saying. I think that, the LMA DeMar type team for the Spurs, the 18-19, I think that would have been a really good fit for Blake towards the end of his career somewhat. He was still, like I said, averaging 24 points a game right there. So add that with DeMar and LMA. You've got a nice little tandem there, and you've actually got a solid bench for the San Antonio Spurs in 2018-19. Could you say title year? I don't know, but they would have really competed really, really well in the NBA that year.
So, yeah, obviously the Clippers were really looking for their rebuild, and that's what you dealt with. At that time, Chris Paul had gone, DeAndre Jordan was gone, and whatnot, and Griffin was that. The Pistons made the move too because they were moving into a new stadium, the Little Caesars, and they wanted to bring in star power. I mean, the owner was blatant about it, saying, "Yeah, we traded him because we needed some star power to fill seats up." So there's that. But I look at that Spurs 17-18, 18-19. I mean, they were a playoff team.
Yeah,
they were a playoff team. So you throw in Griffin.
That's why I say they're good. They're competitive.
Yeah.
Like they're contenders. I'll say that they're contenders at that team.
So on that team, you have obviously DeMar DeRozan. You brought him up. LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, who was still pretty solid for the Spurs. Lonnie Walker's on that team. I'm looking at. I'm sorry. I'm looking at 18-19. Yeah, I'm looking at 18-19 team. 18-19.
Yeah. So you have
Bellinelli's on that team.
Yeah, Bellinelli's another one. So the mix of veterans is perfect for that team. And adding Blake Griffin to that, who's another veteran, you're seeing a better emergence of DeJounte and Derek, a better usage of them because you've got another all-star capable type player there with Blake Griffin on that 18-19 squad. It's a well-balanced squad. It's a well-coached squad. So, to me, that 18-19 team would have been a pretty special team if Blake had joined there.
I think about it, in this what-if scenario in Spurs World 616 right now we're in, it's kind of a big team. I mean, LMA 6'11". You got Drew Eubanks there, who was a bruiser at the time. A 6'9". Pau Gasol, okay, fine, he wasn't the Pau Gasol of Lakers and Memphis days, but 7-footer right there. You throw in Blake Griffin, another big boy. That would have been a big team.
Yeah, they definitely would have had height. But
Yeah.
again, it comes down to coaching too. And I think with that kind of squad, Pop feels like, he has enough veteran leadership to trust a lot of these guys. And you won't see a lot of, and I know Derek and DeJounte, they didn't make a whole lot of mistakes at San Antonio Spurs. They had a few mistakes here and there. But pretty much they were level headed as Spurs guys, on the court. But I think it just, to me, it meshes so well on that 18-19 squad for the Spurs if Blake was to have been a Spur at the time.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely would have been an interesting piece in that bridge era between the Duncan era, the Kawhi era when it ended, and then now they're in the Wemby era. He would have, but I don't think he wouldn't be in San Antonio for so long though. I think maybe a couple years before they move on from him.
Yeah, probably a couple of years. When you started seeing the Derek White trade, the DeJounte trades, Blake would have gone before then, if not, at the same time. But once the rebuild was happening, a lot of the guys were going to go, obviously.
Yeah, it was gonna happen. Yeah, I don't think he would have had a long career, but 2-3 years tops, kind of like LMA, DeMar DeRozan. You know what I would have seen the Spurs do? Say, you know what, we're gonna waive you, Blake Griffin, so you can go off and get yourself a title. That whole
Yeah,
scenario. Put you in the best position for you to
the Spurs,
succeed in your
the
career.
Spurs
Cool.
thing to do.
Yeah,
And this is kind of crazy because would you take 18-19 as a title year or close to being a title year?
does Blake Griffin push you to a title contending team? That's where I'm a little iffy on this. Is Blake Griffin enough to push that team into a title contention team?
Now, people are going to argue, well, he's old. He's at the end of his career.
Yeah.
But again, he averaged almost 25 points and 7 or almost 8 boards a game that year on the Pistons. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's probably still going to average at least minimum 20, 21, maybe 6 or 7 for the Spurs with DeMar and LMA. I mean, combined, that's probably 60 plus points a game just in 3 players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great scenario to be in. If you're the Spurs in that era, the closing out of the right before 2020s begin, to have him, I think the Spurs would have brought him in if there was a scenario there for the Spurs to make it happen. I think they would have done it. I think he would have had to have taken a bench role, right? I think he would have had to come off the bench, more than likely.
Even if he did, I mean,
yeah,
it's not a big deal. He's coming off the bench with Rudy Gay and probably Derek White, Patty Mills at the time. So,
that's a deep team. That's a deep team for sure. It's deep.
That's 10 deep easily for that Spurs team right there.
I think also too, money would have probably put a factor too. How much would he be willing to take to come to San Antonio?
That's the issue.
Yeah,
that's the main issue is money because the Spurs, they don't go out and spend a whole lot of money just on free agents. So it begs the differ to ask the question this way. Blake Griffin wanted to be a Spur, but would he have come to the Spurs on a minimal contract being that it's the end of his career? That's the part to ask. Because, I mean, Klay Thompson's going to go through it this season, his offseason. He's going to want, still 20, 25 a year, but he's not worth that. So that's the problem. Am I too good to not take a team discount? That's the question.
I think, man, because he's going to look at himself and say, I'm still serviceable. Look what I'm doing in Detroit. We're looking at the two what if worlds. If he's looking into the other multiverse, the one that we're in right now, it's like, look what I did. At this time, I can still produce, and he was producing. So I don't think he takes any type of massive pay cut. I mean, if he really wants to be a Spur, as he expressed in that interview, maybe he would. He said that Pop reminds him of his dad, that he likes the structure. He liked, the obviously winning titles and all that stuff. But man, I never would have. In Blake Griffin's career, I never saw him as a Spur kind of player. I never did, because but here he is. He's saying he wanted that to happen, Rudy.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to say the San Antonio Spurs. I've never seen Blake Griffin in a Spurs jersey. I know there's been mocks of it everywhere. At one time, Blake, wants to be traded, put him in a Spurs uniform. You see it on social media every time. So I never saw it happening. I never expected it to happen. Would I be, sad if, it didn't happen? I mean, would I be happy if it didn't happen? Yeah, I would be happy if it happened. It's Blake Griffin, but um, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have expected a whole lot anyway. I mean, it's hard to get a player to be at that All NBA level, especially if they've got to take a backseat to two players that are already on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and just exit out of the multiverse here. Sell Hank Pym and Hulk, Bruce Banner to take us out and bring us back to our present location. And but yeah, it's a great scenario. Rudy loves these type of scenarios, and that's what you get over at Sweep the League. They do these type of scenarios all the time. It's a fun show. It's called Sweep the League on YouTube, part of the Alamo City Sports Podcast. Hey, we're not done talking. When we get back, we're going to discuss a couple of Spurs. I'm sure should I say Locked On Spurs fan comments. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs page? This show episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. You want to go to BetterHelp right now if you're thinking of trying online therapy. Look, sometimes you need an unbiased ear in your life to talk about things you want to get off your chest. Now, it doesn't have to always be negative, but there are negative things that are bothering you and you want to get it off your chest. You want to give BetterHelp a try, or give BetterHelp a try if you want to continue doing positive things in your life to keep you focused, keep you going in the right direction. So sometimes you need the opportunity to get things off your chest, big or small. Certain things in life can weigh you down. Look, I know the Spurs are not in the postseason and I'm bumming you out, but sometimes there's bigger things in life that you want to work through. That's where BetterHelp comes in. So you're thinking about giving online therapy a try, go to BetterHelp right now. Now it's entirely online, designed to be flexible, suited to your schedule. It's you get yourself 10% off your first month. Yeah, if you go visit it right now, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. I want to talk to you about DoorDash. Does your mom have a sweet tooth? She a tech enthusiast, beauty connoisseur? She outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or a flower, bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, whatever it is, so much more by using DoorDash. You can pair flowers with a gift card. You can celebrate the way she wants, because Mother's Day is right around the corner. She a bookworm? You try a bookstore gift card. What about a good latte? Yeah, you have so many options by using DoorDash for mom on Mother's Day. Get that gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You cannot go wrong. Get the thoughtful gifts that you know that she will enjoy and deserve with the convenience that you need. You can choose same day delivery, schedule a week ahead, or flowers and gifts should arrive to her at her door with DoorDash. Look, shop with savings. Make her proud with a DoorDash membership pass. Now, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees for uneligible orders from Dash Pass. Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimal subtotal other fees, including service fees, apply. Terms apply. Yeah, exactly. You want to go to DoorDash right now. And also 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order on DoorDash right now. Again, get all your Mother's Day's gift all in one place. Again, get that order, 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order right now with code Locked On NBA. That's Locked On NBA using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Get that orders in right now by using DoorDash, everybody. So get what are you waiting for? Go to DoorDash right now. Get mom that Mother's Day gift that she deserves. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. And yes, we're in the right multiverse. We're in the right dimension. We're in the right universe. We're not stuck in the other universe we're in. We got back. Hank Pym brought us back. Bruce Banner, everybody, we're back. And we're going to be discussing you guys. That's right. Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are leaving a lot of comments. And boy, did we get a bunch of them. Rudy, let's dive into it here. The first one is from Ozzy NYC. He's reacting to yesterday's show where we put in focus draft prospect Zaccharie Risacher. In that conversation, Rudy, we talked about Topic. And well, Ozzy NYC does not like it. Here's what he has to say, Rudy. He says, Topic would be a massive mistake. He is not an elite player in any facet. Not sure what people are seeing on his tape which is not against elite talents. I hope to God we don't draft him. So we got Ozzy saying stay clear from Topic, even though he's a point guard, and that is a position of need right now for the Spurs.
So I will gladly say this. Nikola Topic is probably not a safe bet, but he's a project pick that I would definitely have for the San Antonio Spurs. But again, I go back to asking the same question to Ozzy, who left that comment, and what player is elite in this draft? There's no elite players. There's no instant impact guys that are going to come in and be all stars right away. So instead of looking at the 2024 draft as who's elite and who's going to be, our savior here on any team, not just the Spurs, you got to remember and ask yourself, are there elite players in this draft? There really isn't. I agree. Drafting Topic in the top 3, if the Spurs get a top 3 pick, that's way too high. I fully expect them to trade down if they get, even the first pick. I fully would hope they would trade down in the draft and get other draft assets, pick somewhere else. But yeah, I agree. Topic's not, an elite guy, but again, nobody in this draft is elite. If I had to take one guy, it is actually Topic, who I would have for the Spurs and who I have them picking if they trade down.
All right, well, there you have it. So we got Ozzy saying, by the way, thank you, Ozzy, for the comment, saying no way to Topic, but Rudy is lukewarm on it, considering the draft and who's in it. All right,
Yeah.
The next comment is from the Lord Czar. I like that. He says, Chris Paul, makes no sense for the Spurs or for Paul. He wants a title. Spurs aren't there. He isn't the missing piece. Now, again, another reaction from yesterday's Locked On Spurs show. What do you think about Chris Paul? I mean, again, checks all the boxes, right? Veteran, point guard, established, all-star, locker room presence, young team. It makes sense. But where do you stand? Would you buy or sell about Chris Paul coming to San Antonio?
So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing Chris Paul off the shelf and I'm walking around the store with him until I can see something better that I want to buy. Now, what I mean by that is I buy the fact that Chris Paul could be a great Spur and toward the end of his career, obviously. But what I'm also saying is that when I look around the store, I'm looking to see what my offseason consists of. If I make the right trade or if I make the right pickup on free agency, then will Chris Paul help me at the point guard position with Wemby and this other person or 2 other people that I've added to the roster? Will that make us contenders? That's the question that I have on the Chris Paul thing. Is I need to make sure first that my offseason is going as per plan, and then I will add Chris Paul at a later date. More than likely, he's going to probably end up joining the Lakers for 1 year. He's been rumored to the Lakers for so long. Now's his opportunity to join LeBron and AD if both guys are still there. It makes total sense for him to go there. It'll make them, again, contenders, even though I don't buy the whole LeBron hype as a contender really anymore from when he was younger. But Paul to the Spurs, it just depends on what they do. They've got a lot more stuff to take care of before Chris Paul is even situated out to be a Spur.
Yeah, I think they find a younger established point guard. Does that make sense? Like more of a younger one,
Yeah.
to grow with Wembanyama. No knock on Paul, but look, I know he has the accolades and the numbers, and he's a Hall of Famer. But man, still no title. Still no title. Does he push the team? I mean, his playoff. He
No.
produces, but he doesn't produce. Do you want that? He's a bulldog. He's an old school type of point guard that will get in your face with this young team, react negatively to that. Trey Jones is very level headed, calm. He is their point guard right now as we speak. But you're going from Trey Jones and making a big jump, at least as far as floor leadership is concerned, to Chris Paul. That's a massive leap there, Rudy.
It's a massive leap, but I ask you, Jeff, how many more wins does that add to the team? I mean, it's not going to
Yeah.
it's not going to be playoff wins. It's not going to be play-in wins. Probably you probably go into 26 maybe wins total if you have the exact same squad and add Chris Paul to it. You're not adding a
Mhm.
whole lot of more wins. So is it worth it in the end? Not really. If you're just adding Chris Paul, it doesn't make it at all. It's like you're so excited you go to the store and you buy a can of Coke and you crack it open and it's flat. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
much the exact same thought process.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we thank y'all for leaving those comments on the Locked On Spurs page. Keep them coming. We'll read them as best we can and as many as we can, considering it is the offseason. We need you guys to help us out here with some topics on Locked On Spurs. Once again, he is Rudy Campos. Rudy, brag about Sweep the League for us.
Yeah, man, we're a part of the Alamo City podcast network. We're doing some really good things out there. We're on Fridays at 3 o'clock from like 3 to 4:30. It's one day a week now, but yeah, you're right. We talk about everything. We actually got some really good stuff to talk about this week. One of them being one of the lockdowns I did with you, where it was the Wemby Duncan debate, and that was actually a pretty popular topic. So we're going to be talking about that this coming Friday.
All right. Make sure to follow Rudy on X at Sweep the League. Thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe Casey will join us. We'll find out. Maybe he'll be the guest to wrap up. Make up for him having issues with me today, Rudy. And talking all things silver and black with him. Check out Locked On Sports today, 24/7 streaming YouTube show only on YouTube. Go subscribe to it right now. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.